Hello and welcome to the first episode of Fox Sports Lab AFL. I'm Ben Dixon, your host, and joining me, Hawthorn great Jason Dunstall. Great to have you on board, Jason.
Pleasure to be here, Dicko.
Looking forward to this, and we've got our stats man, the guru, everything you want to know, our Steve Urkel. No, he's not. That's where we pull up. But Paton, great to have you on, Al.
Thanks, Dicko. It's a pleasure.
Well, I can tell you now, coming up, we're going to have a look at the best spines in the competition. Do the Blues have what it takes to make the top four? And an early preview of Geelong and Collingwood blockbuster. Great teams have great spines, boys, and it doesn't guarantee you a top 8 spot. We're going to debate that now because we've brought in some really big ins here. The Pies bring in Mistay, D's brought in Grundy. We've got Freo with Jackson, the Tigers, Taranto, and Jones and Lobb for the Doggies. Jason, I'm going to go to you first. Does a great spine guarantee you a top 8 spot?
No, and we need to make that clarification that we're picking the top 8 spines, not the top 8 teams that are actually going to make the 8. But most good teams have a spine that has class and stability around which the rest of the players can flourish. So ideally, you want to start with a decent spine. Otherwise, it's going to take something special.
Well, what about, Al, can you have a weak spine but still make the top 8?
Well, I think the thing that was interesting to me looking through all these teams is there's really no side that has it absolutely perfect in every single position. There's always a question mark. So I guess the answer to that has to be yes.
What about the Blues? I'm bullish on the Blues.
I know
in the
you
opener.
are.
But a strong spine, they say the back line's probably their weakest link. But where do you sit, Al?
No, I like where the Blues are. I mean, the talent's there all the way down the field. I mean, especially if you've got the Twin Towers in attack, which is obviously a pretty good place to start, and they're very solid in defence, and the midfield's fantastic. The one question mark, I guess, for them is maybe in the ruck. Tom's just coming through, and Paton there, so that's one question mark, but yeah, no, I like where they're going.
What about the Ds, Jason, in terms of the spine? So we know Grundy's come in to dawn, and I mean, in the pre-season game, it looked pretty daunting for most teams, but is that the best team in terms of spines?
I think they look really good on paper. What do you expect from Grundy? Well, let's be honest, he didn't have a great season last year, did he? So I don't sit there and say, oh, they're a much better team just because Grundy's come in, but I think they're a much better team because of the fitness of a lot of players that didn't have the right preparation last year after the success the year before. I think they're a team ready to go.
So, Al, I'm looking at yours, the Demons, the Cats, so we're just going to declare our top 8 spines. You've got the Ds, the Cats and the Blues. I've gone exactly the same, and then you've thrown the Tigers in there.
Well, something wrong with the Tigers. You recruit Hopper and Taranto into your midfield. You get a couple of, again, some fit players coming back. They had a heap of problems, particularly early in the year last season. So I think they're another team that can really do something.
All right, who rises on the ladder because of their spine?
Well, the one that I've looked at that I'm not sure I could put him in my top 8 at the end of the year, but looking at the spine on paper, the Giants actually shape up pretty well. Now, Taranto and Hopper go out, as you say, but the midfield still looks really strong with Josh Kelly, Canelio, Tom Green, could be absolutely anything. They've got Sam Taylor in defence, who's All-Australian centre-half back. And the one that probably, from the stats, jumped off the page is Braden Preuss in the ruck. Last year, he was the number 1 hit-out win ruckman in the AFL of any regular ruckman. The problem is, can he actually stay out on the park, not get injured and not do something silly and get himself suspended?
Not even great stats can move the Giants up to go.
And you're coming from our stats, man. Well, talk about the weak ones. So in terms of a weak spine, who have you got as a slider this year?
Yeah, well, I think the Swans are going to struggle to repeat what they did last year. There's nothing wrong with their spine, although I worry about the forward setup. I mean, Buddy's 36, young Logan McDonald hasn't quite developed, so there's a lot of reliance upon your Heaney hybrid types that are playing forward, and they're very good at doing it, and I hate underestimating the Swans because John Longmire is a terrific coach and they continue to reinvent themselves, but I just think they might find it hard backing up after last year.
What about the Lions? I've got them sliding. Now, their spine looks reasonably strong, right? So just make sure I make that point. But I've got them sliding because when they've got the footy, they're 4th in the competition. When they don't have the footy, they're 14th. So I get the biggest worry of their defence. So from a spine perspective, they look good, but I think they're a slider this year. What do you reckon?
Well, I mean, they've got a couple of handy ins. One in Josh Dunkley.
Handy.
And Will Ashcroft looks like he's just going to step straight in and be a star. But I guess Dunkley, what he brings to that team too is that real hard-nosed, defensive-minded midfielder. You know, he tackles, he runs back and, you know, helps out the defence. So I think that'll help them in that, letting the opposition just sort of run the ball too easily from one end to the other.
Now, just clarify for me, you said they've got a strong spine, but you haven't got a spot for that spine in your top 8.
No, I don't, because I think they're the big slider of the year.
Then you're saying the spine's not that strong.
No, I actually have it in there, don't I? No, I don't.
You don't.
No, it's a good point he's made. So he's clicked me on the first episode. But one thing we're going to be guaranteed of is some spine-tingling games in 2023.
Footy is life. It's loyalty, rivalry, love and pain. Footy is everything. That's why we've made a betting brand for footy fans. That's better. Gamble responsibly.
It's a year for big moves and bold predictions, and I'm going to start by saying Carlton will make the top 4. Did you hear that? Carlton will make the top 4. Jason, I'm coming to you first because I can see the steam coming out your ears, and you totally disagree with me.
Well, a lot of people are bullish about the Blues, and I get that. I'm just not one of them. I think there's issues. In particular, when you don't start the season with a fit and firing Sam Walsh, all of a sudden look at that midfield with Cripps and Hewitt and Chera and Kennedy. Where's the leg speed? There is none. Far too heavy reliance, I think, on the 2 key forwards in Curnow and Mackay because their smalls don't kick goals. I think Zach Fisher was the most goals, 17 or 18 for a small forward. That's not enough, mate. You need more from the periphery and they're not getting it. And then, don't get me started down back. So I think you've got a few issues. Do you go with your top 4 pick?
Compelling argument. Whose side are you sitting on?
Well, just looking at the stats on paper and the history of the top 8, and it shows that every year, just about since we've had the top 8, a team has jumped from outside the finals into the top 4. We saw it with Collingwood last year, and probably one that the Blues fans could look to is Melbourne in 2021, where they just missed the finals by the agonising margin. Next year, they're premiers. So if someone's going to do it, I think Carlton is best placed.
Well, get used to this. We will not agree for the whole season as we go through this. But watch this space. Who ends up with the Baggers' bragging rights?
Footy is life. It's loyalty, rivalry, love and pain. Footy is everything. That's why we've made a betting brand for footy fans. That's better. Gamble responsibly.
One of the big questions ahead of the 2023 season is whether the great escape artist Collingwood has finally used up all its luck. What's next for Collingwood? Jason, I'm going to come to you. You're bullish on them because last year, 11 of their 16 wins were under 2 goals.
Yeah, I love the way they play. Very, very exciting, but that just won't happen again. You can't win that many close games. It just doesn't happen. So I see them sliding a little bit. I think they overachieved last year. Has McStay fixed their forward woes? I wouldn't have thought so. You take Grundy out, so now you're relying on Darcy Cameron and Mason Cox in the ruck. I think you've got an ageing midfield. When a 35-year-old runs second in your best and fairest, I don't think that's great. Terrific of Scott Pendlebury, he's a superstar, but they need to share the load a bit more.
Went down to Geelong by 8 points in a qualifying final. I mean, there's no luck involved in winning games of footy. Al, where do you sit?
No, I think I have to actually agree with Jason on this. And just that stat, the 11 close wins, they won 6 games by under a goal. It's like the most ever. And their percentage last year, which if you look at percentages, maybe a little bit more of a truer indication of where teams sit. If you believe in that, their percentage of 104 was the lowest by a top 4 side since 1998. So Jamie Elliott kick just slides the other side of the post. A couple of times that happens, drops them a few more wins down the ladder, maybe bottom end of the 8 for me.
So I'm talking about Al now, he's on my side.
Yeah, I'm going to introduce you as Mr. Positivity next time we come in. But Collingwood, well, no doubt they're going to be a fascinating watch in 2023.
Footy is life. It's loyalty, rivalry, love and pain. Footy is everything. That's why we've made a betting brand for footy fans. That's better. Gamble responsibly.
Richmond won the 2017 Premiership with 1 tall forward and 191 centimetre backup ruckman. This year, the Doggies are considering playing 4 giants in the front half. Is there method in their madness, Jason? Is too tall timber up their detriment, or is it going to work for the Doggies this year?
How tall's too tall? Well, 3 or more is too tall. It looks great in theory and it looks great on paper, but if you want to win games of footy, no good, because the ball's just going to flow back out when it hits I can't remember the last time a team went really, really tall and dominated in the air, kicked goals and won a game. So whilst it might sound great in theory, I don't think it plays out in practice that way.
Why would they go and get lobbed then?
Yeah, no, that's an interesting one for me, especially when they get Liam Jones, who they can just slot in. They got him basically for nothing. The one that I'm really keen to watch this year is Marcus Bontempelli. Last year, they had to use him forward a fair bit. You'd think there's no need for him, no room for him down there now, so he can go back to playing pure inside mid, where we know he's just an absolute superstar. But the one thing he needs to tidy up is his goal kicking. He only rated about 45% accuracy last year, which is pretty low down in the AFL. So if he can tidy that up, Bond could be absolutely anything. The tall forwards, just not quite sure how that's going to work.
Quick one, Sam Darcy, forward or back?
Oh, he'll play both ends, I think, where they need him to, which will be difficult on him too as a young player, but too many tools to go.
All right, that's our look at Bevo's 2023 Doggies.
Footy is life. It's loyalty, rivalry, love and pain. Footy is everything. That's why we've made a betting brand for footy fans. That's better. Gamble responsibly.
The countdown clock is rapidly ticking down to round one, and we want to have a look at the first two games. The season opener between Richmond and Carlton, the MCG, March 16th, Thursday night. It's going to be an absolute beauty. Jace, I'll come to you first. Last year, it took 3.5 quarters, but guess what happened? Carlton ended up beating Richmond, but steamrolling them by a big margin. Do you see that happening again?
There'd been a long time between drinks before they got that win last year, and you know I grew up as a Carlton supporter, so I do have a soft spot for them. I just think Richmond's a lot better prepared this time around, and we spoke earlier, I've still got some concerns about the way they structure up the Blues. I don't know what they do with Mitch McGovern. Honestly, what role is he going to play? Zach Williams hasn't given them anything. He's out injured for the season again. Sam Walsh is out injured. I just think this isn't the ideal preparation for them.
Well, I'm bullish. Richmond or Carlton for you? Which way are you leaning?
Well, we saw what happened in round one last year, that in the last quarter, that Carlton completely got on top in the midfield, won about 10 centre clearances in a row, and that's where all those goals came from. This year, Richmond obviously has seen that as a weakness. They know they were ranked bottom 4 for clearance differential last year, so in comes Taranto, in comes Hopper, straight away straightens that up, helps protect the defence a little bit more. And the other guy who's almost a new recruit is Dustin Martin. Only played 8 games last year, so he's a big X factor, and he loves the big stage at the MCG on the Thursday night.
All right, Geelong opens its title defence against Collingwood at the MCG Friday night, March 17th. I'm bullish on Collingwood. I know you're not, but you see Geelong just winning this one, Jason?
Well, it's a tough one. I mean, they haven't had the ideal preparation, I don't think, as far as a few of their players are concerned. Tom Hawkins certainly is one of those for the Cats, but they're such a professional side and they get so many players carrying the load. They don't rely on 1 or 2 players. We don't know what the impact of losing Joel Selwood's going to be yet. I mean, there is a leader of men that just played with all his heart and all his soul out there. So there's plenty there that I think will pick up and run with that style of leadership. But I think they'll get challenged by Collingwood. I hope it's a cracking game.
What about Geelong? We say lose Selwood and then they throw Sava Radaglia down back and he just looks like he's been there for 10 years.
And they bring in, I mean, you talk about a professional team.
Yeah.
It's the entire club. Like the recruiting team just, was almost criminal what they pulled off around the draft and the trade period last year. They bring in someone like Tanner Bruhn, throw him in the pre-season games and he wins 5 clearances and is nearly their best midfielder. So, as you say, Geelong they move better at anybody at moving the pieces around the chessboard and making it work.
Do you think McStay's going to make a difference up front?
Not really. I've got to be brutally honest. Look, and this is no disrespect to Dan McStay, who's a good-sized player that competes really hard, but he never had that big impact at Brisbane. Why all of a sudden do we think he'll come and fix all of Collingwood's problems? I don't get that. You're asking a lot. He doesn't have a heap of support there. If he gets a couple of tough days, how's his confidence going to be? I just think it's a really tough position for him to be in because everyone's thinking he's the panacea that's going to fix all their issues.
What about Collingwood? We talked about their tight finishes last year and getting over the line. I don't think it was a fluke. I think it was their system. So do you think that they can obviously improve on that?
Well, someone was down at training at Collingwood, like this is in January, and Craig McRae was yelling at them, there's 2 minutes to go, we're 5 points behind, and that's how they train. So it's not just luck, but I mean, there's so many variables in an AFL game that it can't go your way every single time. So correct. I think what they did last year was incredible, but you can't expect them to win all of those games.
No, all teams practice those last-minute drills to go. You know that. Yeah. But to win 11 games by under 2, that's probably going to be a 5-6, 6-5 split next time around. So all of a sudden there's 5 wins they don't have.
What about Geelong? So they went on that incredible run where they weren't beaten. Can they do that again? Do you see them dropping 1 or 2 games this year?
I mean, it's hard to see it now, but I mean, probably at some stage something will happen that we're not expecting. But I mean, yeah, they're just such a good club, such a professional outfit that I can't see them not challenging.
All right, well, everything I've said today, you've shot down.
No, I haven't. We're just having healthy debate.
No, healthy debate. So tipped Carlton to make the top 4 and Collingwood to stay there, and you're off both teams as well. But it's been outstanding. Thanks very much for having you on, Jason. Al, outstanding once again. And let's have a look at the round 1 tips. So these guys are going with Richmond. I'm going with Carlton, and I'm pretty bullish on that one. And we're all going with Geelong. So as we look at it now, Geelong are going to be hard to beat. So they look like they're going to go back to back. Thanks for joining us on our very first episode of Fox Sports Lab AFL. Make sure you subscribe below and follow us on socials, and we'll see you next week.
Footy is life. It's loyalty, rivalry, love and pain. Footy is everything. That's why we've made a betting brand for footy fans. That's better. Gamble responsibly.